So once I got to the airport, I went out and met with my instructor. There he is there, Andy, great guy. And we spent about 30 minutes going over the exterior of the plane, which I'm going to speed up for you because I'm sure you don't really want to watch 30 minutes of me going over the exterior of a plane. But, you know, the ins and outs of every aspect of the aircraft. He showed me the engine. We pulled out the check sheet and checklist and went over that. That Cessna 182, I guess that is, pulled up when we were getting near done. And at one point we stopped and watched a Pilatus land. Apparently the owner of the magazine SWAT lives out here, so that was kind of cool. But eventually we started up the engine and he told me I was going to be doing everything, which was a little disturbing. But, you know, at first he went over everything inside and then said, all right, let's do this thing. So we gave it a little bit of throttle, and he said, you know, turn us around, point us towards the runway over here, and we'll get going. And I had never, well, it's not true. I had steered a plane before, but it had been so long I'd kind of forgotten how the foot steering works, and you know, it was a very interesting learning experience. And he was completely hands off. He basically let me make mistakes and let me do it. And I was okay. And you know, he was just super calm and giving me, you know, gentle instructions and reminders. But you know, as you can see by watching this, I'm a little all over the place because, well, I really hadn't done this in a long time. So a little embarrassing. But we went all the way down the back of this runway, and this is a really long runway, by the way, for these little planes. It's like 5,500 feet, I think. But we went out here, and just before we got on the runway, we spent a good, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes doing a startup, or I mean, you know, the warm-up on the plane and going over all the stuff on the instruments and, you know, pre-takeoff procedures according to the list. And he went over all the instrumentation and explained what did what and why it did what it did and how it did what it did. And he also explained to me that his GPS was broken for some reason. He's not sure what happened. You know, the antenna had wobbled loose or something, so he was a little disappointed with that and told me we weren't going to go very far. But with that, he said we're going to go ahead and back taxi down this runway to give us ample runway coverage, and in case something goes wrong, we can just land on the runway because it's so long. You could actually take off, land multiple times on the darn thing. And yeah, he was making me do it all. He did very little, and I overturned a little there, but he did very little. But I always felt he was there. I always felt he was safe. But when he was ready to go, he's like, all right, punch it. Which, okay. And so I did. We gave full throttle. And again, having a little problems with the steering. I'm not really sure, you know, still learning how to steer as we go down the runway. And it was very sensitive once we got up to speed. So that was cool. But then it just lifted into the air, and then we felt the gust, and suddenly now we're crabbing down the runway, and that was a little scary for me because I don't trust this machine yet. You know, unlike my motorcycle or my car, which I do trust. It's going to take some time before I learn, you know, to trust this machine. But once we were in there, it was just business as usual, and he was totally calm and just talking to me, and we were just, for the lack of a better term, we were just shooting the shit. And he let me fly this whole thing. I flew everything from takeoff all the way until we turned final. I mean, I flew everything. I couldn't believe he would let me do that, considering this was the very first time he had flown with me. I think it was awesome, and I think it's a statement of how calm he was, and that he was willing to let me make mistakes. And you know, his thing was, you know, you'll be fine. This plane wants to fly. You're going to be okay. It was very reassuring. And like I said, I was a little freaked out on the takeoff, but by this point, I was totally calm. I was having a ball, and I was much more relaxed. Eventually, we turn and we start heading towards my house. He actually asked. He's like, you know, do you live out here somewhere? I was like, yeah, I live back over, you know, near Blairsville, and he's like, oh, well, let's go find your house. You know, he thought that would be cool. So we did. We eventually flew way back towards the other airfield and flew towards my house, and we had to hunt for it because it's, you know, everything looks different in the air, and that took a long time, by the way. It took a while to find the house, but we did eventually find it, and we eventually came back. And you'll see me pointing, and we talk a little bit, but I've got the volume pretty low because I didn't think you wanted to hear the drone of the engine, and you really can't understand us anyway. But yeah, so this video is going to keep going for another 20 minutes or so, and then you're going to see me reach up and turn it off. And you're probably thinking, why did he do that? Well, I didn't realize the video was running, and I had forgotten to turn it on. I was so excited and amped up for doing all this, I had completely forgotten to turn the darn thing on. And he reminded me, he said, hey, did you ever turn the video on? I was like, oh, I forgot. I figured I'll just turn it on and we'll at least get the landing. Yeah, I turned it off because I'm a big dummy. Oh, well. Anyways, it was a good experience. I'm really glad I did it. And watching this video after the fact really it calms me even more, because I gotta admit, while we were flying, we were being buffeted all over the place, and or at least it felt like that. You know, every little bump, every little gust, it just felt like we were all over the place. And then you look at the video, it's like, hey, it looks really calm and serene. And yeah, it probably was. I was just being overly sensitive. I know I had a death grip on the yoke the whole time, which was just painful, I'm sure. And yeah, I'm definitely doing this again. So enjoy the rest of the video. I'll shut up now. Thanks, guys.